Good evening. This is Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. Charles Sachin.
Good evening.
And I'll be your host, Tikshirul. Today's topics are on the public hearing on the case of coal theft, amendments to the criminal law, and the policy rate of the Mongol Bank. So our first issue is a topic that we've been speaking about for 3 weeks, which is coal theft. This past Wednesday, there was a parliamentary public hearing at the State Palace where there were representatives of the protesters along with several different entities. The hearings went on for over 10 hours, and citizens expressed their thoughts, their frustrations, but they did not feel that the solutions that were reached during the hearings were adequate for the future. And there have been cases of people stripping naked outside the Parliament Palace, and there were some people that even got hypothermia and some frostbite. There was also a dispersing of the protesters that were at the Sukhbatar Square, where an alleged over 1,000 police officers came to disperse the crowds, and the police later explained it as that it was at the request of the health officials, as people could not be out in such extreme weather for that long. So what is generally happening around this case?
Well, this protest continued for 17 days and dispersed on Thursday. It's really a expression of democratic sense and protests of people against corruption, bad governance in the country. Because for the last 30 years, it's a mineral-rich country. The sales from the mineral benefited few people, and the general mass doesn't see that benefit. And plus, in the wave of this corruption scandals, people got angry because now it's less jobs, small salary. Many people want to go to Korea to work, labor, etc. So in this wave, protesters came out, and the government, the state, tried to have more negotiations, more talks with the protesters. In such a cold weather, it's not always convenient to do it on countryside and outside. So one proposal was to have this general parliamentarian public hearing on the alleged coal theft issue. So they tried. There were application of 225 citizens, including 45 protesters, and plus 17 organizations to participate in this public hearing. Since the State Palace has not such a big auditorium, they have at least used the largest 4 halls for this one, and many people could not come in. And that's why some of the people, of some 20 young person at the western gate of the palace, stripped naked. And after 1 hour, they were taken away because it was really so cold, frostbite. So finally, they are supposed to start the hearing at 10 o'clock. They could not do it because there were so many requests. It was not clear agenda, etc. And finally, at 1 o'clock, they have started at 13, and they went another for 10 hours. But the good thing was many people had the chance to speak in front of the public, in front of many TVs, their concern, their questions. I think which was, in that sense, we should give the due respect to the organizers of, in particular, those 3 parliament members who were running these sessions, namely Mrs. Otuntuya, Mr. Dorchan, and Mr. Chinzorik, 3 parliamentarians who were truly, in spite of all these critics, offenses, they have been doing the great job, and people had a chance to speak to their mind. during which many statistics, many things were expressed already. I think minutes were taken. So another interesting thing was there were several parliament members, several cabinet members, including the Minister of Finance, who said that since 2011, Mongolia have sold about 300 million tons of coal. That's a big, it's big money. Actually, the largest coking coal deposit of the country, Irtidnis Tavan Tolgoi, it has a 7.3 billion tons of coal. So it's many thousand years in that speed we can use that. However, unfortunately, the benefit comes not to everybody. In spite of organizing different structure like Norway or Singapore, but the system didn't work up to now, at least. That's why people came out to the street. He said that. Another striking thing for me was just newly appointed head of the customs agency, Mr. Atkunjarga. He said that in 2010 and 2011 alone, these 2 years, 379,000 tons of coal in 758 trucks went through the border without customs clearance. Just in that 2 years, 10 years ago. And recently also the same happened. The amount is now identified more correctly. But what does it show? That what a state or country is that the customs don't make proper clearance, cannot make, or they have been bought to do so. So this is a very serious question of the capacity of this state and governance of Mongolia. So these were two quotes I was very interested to learn. But however, this naked people, stripped-necked young people, and the other few, I saw women on Sukhpatas who were also topless. Now, allegedly, they were paid for that by certain groups, their names coming like the Mr. Hort's former General Intelligence Agency head, but then another parliament member who completely denied his participation, and another lady who was really handing cash, it turned out. So these three allegedly people, or group of other group of people, have been giving money to protesters to express themselves in this way. So whether it is true or not, still the police is to make clear, but that's what had happened. And as of Thursday night, the people were forcefully dispensed. Now, hopefully, they will have another square or place to continue. But what I saw from protesters' expressions through social media, they will go ahead. And they need to go because there is no solutions. We don't have in our hand any solutions of these issues and many other scandalous issues in the country.
With the Sukhpatra Square barricaded, it seems that protesters cannot protest anymore at that spot. So you said they will find a way to protest. How do you see them protesting in the future? Do you think that the protesters would demand another public hearing or more engagement with the government to come up with a better solution?
Definitely, they will find a way, and the government has to find a better way of communication also. So far, the parliament had decided on Thursday that they will have on February 13th so-called consultative poll or opinion making. I don't know what does it mean, but the consultative poll, how to solve the issues, maybe that is coming to this point. But we know the reason now why all this is happening, because of very bad governance, not monitoring properly, and most importantly, the judicial system of the country doesn't work or work very poorly, so that so many criminal cases have been not solved. That makes people angry, in particular young people who had lost, who who see and who understands that they have lost many opportunities. With that money, there could be so many other new job creations, opportunities for them to find job, to express themselves. So that's why the majority of the Mongolian protesters are young people. That's why the government has to find solutions, in particular the judicial system, to show them true justice.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to our second topic for this week. We've discussed the amendments to the criminal law last week, where protesters demanded 5 amendments, and these were proposed last Wednesday, and they were accepted last Friday. So there was a very quick turnaround, and well, we've talked about the details last week, but regarding the changes in the law, where there's one of the news headlines that has gathered a lot of eyes is that former President Batolak has left the country following the release of the list of the people allegedly connected to the coal theft issue. And so, do you think that this is a big deal, or do you think he's just getting treatment as he said?
Well, 2 things. One is about this provisions amended into the criminal law, provision number 22, in which some people who, if they recognize their mistake, and then it will be solved through the court system in simplified procedure, which mostly there were several cases, hundreds of the cases, people who have accepted, feel guilty. They got only 40 million MNT penalty, and they were freed from the prison, etc. So this kind of simplified, so-called versions is now deleted. As a result, now that's why we hope that now more justice is coming, and in that regard also how the government and judicial system fights corruption will be a little bit better. In fact, last week, for the first time, the case of TDB Bank owner Ertin Billeg and several of his colleagues, criminal file was requested by anti-corruption agency to make court decisions on the criminal case, and that file was sent to prosecutor. And prosecutor first time had allowed that file go to the court. So the court now is to announce the hearing days on this occasion. Just to remind for those who doesn't know the case, Mr. Billeg is organized with the high-ranking other officials of the government, organized the purchase of 49% owned by Russian government to their own newly established company. But the allegation comes when all this money, around 450 million USD dollar, was taken either from the Development Bank of Mongolia and the other factories, plants he had, through which he got a loan. So it's a very long-awaited case, and about 7 or so people now at the court. Second thing, also, what happened last week, also, the case of Development Bank, bad loan. Mostly politicians influenced this bad loan, and this case also was transferred to prosecutor office, which for court hearing. So these 2 things, I think, these 2 cases, people were waiting so long. Okay, and as a result of this demonstration on the Sukhbata Square, they had to transfer all these 2 court decisions, which is a good case. And now, what is happening about this alleged coal theft? That's what the protesters want to see, along with the all ordinary people, and that's why, since nothing is solved, no criminal or whatever is identified, no penalized, I think people will continue. They will find the way how to push the government to solve the issue. Now it's mostly like many balls are coming from the government to the court system. So we need to watch how things will roll out from there.
Let's move on to our final topic for this week. This past week, the Mongol Bank has increased its policy rate to 13%. So they increased it by 1% up to 13%, which it is at currently. And this was, as the Mongol Bank said, to combat inflation. So how exactly does increasing the policy rate in a country affect its inflation and the general the economy overall?
In fact, it's only instrument that Mongol Bank can use in terms of monetary policy. Mm-hmm. And this year, at the beginning, it was 6.5%. Mm-hmm. Completely changed the structure of banking system, the 6.5% in the history of Mongolia. Then now, after 12 months, they have increased twice. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, they have increased 4 times. This is the 5th time they increased. Now it's at the level of 13%.
So double what it was at the beginning of the year.
Yes. This policy rate, meaning that the commercial banks can keep with that interest rate their money, mm-hmm. deposits in a Mongol bank account, which gives less money to the businesses as a loan. Mm-hmm. However, now, because it has increased 2 times, much larger than expected, now the saving rates in commercial banks have up to now about that level, 13%, mm-hmm. because the interest rate, policy interest rate is a level of, base level of saving rates for people, for deposits, saving deposits, which also impact, they add the commercial banks' operating cost to 3-4%, mm-hmm. and at the level of, say, around 20%, they will give a loan, not less. So it's becoming on one side for businesses, money is becoming more expensive, 2 times expensive now. Mm-hmm. It means less business. However, central bank believes that it will help to keep the inflation, which is around 16% in the country. Now the policy is 13%. Mm-hmm. So still it is even less than inflation rate, which gives me concern that they may increase again. Mm-hmm. Because the inflation rate, the policy rate, they are correlated. So in Mongolia, all this impact is usually you sense it in 6 months. Mm-hmm. In many other countries, it was much shorter, even immediately. Why? Because the financial market is consisting of 2 markets, right? Money market, it's the longest 1-year term of money. Mm-hmm. The other is longer, capital market. So where capital market is large, in many developed countries, capital market is even larger than the monetary market, mm-hmm. money market. Then this interest rate is immediately impact on this situation, on the market, because this is where the capital market share is very large, and in Mongolia it's only 6% of GDP. Mm. So when it is large, the liquidity is immediately sensed. Mm-hmm. So that's why interest rate increase in Mongolia is makes impact only after around 6 months. Mm-hmm. That's what we have noticed, the change. At the beginning of the year, when the 6.5% was policy rate, saving rate went down even only 5-6% in Mongolian tugliks. In dollar, even 0 or 1% or 2%. As a result, many people took away, those who has money took away the money, put into the real estate market. Mm-hmm. And today, many real estate market have bought by these people and not using. Mm-hmm. That's why the relatively stagnation of house sale, residential building sale is happening now. So it has truly a serious impact on the way we live.
Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. Jarasheim.
Thank you very much for watching us, and you can rewatch it on our social media, Facebook, Jargal Defacto, and on the website, jargaldefacto.com, and Tingir TV, also .mn. Please send us your comment so that we can do better our job. Thank you very much.